Welcome to Feminine Initiate Podcast. I'm your host, Jess West, and I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. I'm excited to be bringing back Erin Sisko on the show today. Erin is the founder of the Elleiance Network, Canada's business mastermind network for ambitious, growth-minded women entrepreneurs. She helps women raise the most powerful, yet often overlooked form of capital, which is social capital. Through strategic connections and curated communities, Erin helps entrepreneurs unlock financial opportunity, amplify impact, and lead with confidence. Erin is also the creator of the Capital L Business Impact Award, a $50,000 funding program supporting women who are often overlooked by traditional capital systems, like early stage founders, underestimated entrepreneurs, and those that are denied access to loans or grants. With 29 partners, 27 of them being women-owned businesses, this national award is Canada's largest collaboration project for women entrepreneurs. Erin's on a mission to ensure that no woman builds alone. Today, we talk about Erin's background story, how she built the Elleiance Network, and we talk about the Capital L Business Fund, how you can qualify, how you could apply, because applications have officially opened as of yesterday, and they will remain open until October 28th, 2025. So if you are a women entrepreneur in Canada, I highly recommend that you apply. And if you are not an entrepreneur or not in Canada, but you know of a Canadian women business owner, then you can nominate them to let them know that you're thinking about them and that you believe in their mission and the success of their business. It is such a beautiful gift that you can offer them. So without any further ado, let's get into this incredible conversation. All right. Hello, Erin. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today. So last year you were on the podcast in episode 104 titled The One Thing That Holds Women Back in Business. And we were talking about your business that you founded, the Elleiance Network, and you had just recently introduced the Elle Capital Business Fund, which was really exciting. So I feel like our last episode, you really talked about your business and the fund. This episode, I would really love for us to get to know you. Who's Erin behind all of this? So maybe we can start off with that today. And would you mind telling us, who is Erin? And did you always have a desire to want to become an entrepreneur, let alone a serial entrepreneur, and let alone mentor other women entrepreneurs?
Okay, hi. Thank you for having me back. Wow. Who is Ari? It feels like such a loaded question. I'm like, it can go in so many directions because there's so many aspects to
Mm-hmm.
how I got here and what I do right now. But did I always want to be an entrepreneur? So I guess going
Mm-hmm.
back, no. The short answer to that is no. I never actually saw myself as an entrepreneur. And I think part of that is because I had no examples of entrepreneurship around me in any aspect when I was a kid or growing up, like no family members, no friends. So I was, I just looked at my parents as to examples of how to live life. And I feel like I really just took that on as the one way to do things. And both of my parents had jobs and we grew up modestly. So I wanted to make a little bit of money and live in a little house and just be okay at my job. And I really also had no idea what I wanted to do for the longest time. I felt like I wasn't extraordinary or like really good or had a deep interest and passion in anything. So that was really kind of confusing and disappointing for me when everyone's trying to figure out, like outside of high school, what you're going to be when you grow up. I had no idea. So, but it was always my plan to go to post-secondary, and I ended up landing on getting a business marketing diploma and thought that business was a broad enough career path that I had options. So that was my thought process there. I got my business marketing diploma, and then it was actually really difficult for me to get a job anywhere. And I waitressed for quite a while. And then I finally got a job working for Scotiabank in personal banking. And so, not really related to marketing. And actually, numbers and math and accounting were always the most difficult subjects for me. So, I was like, oh, I guess but I was desperate at the time. And it was mostly a positive first professional job experience. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. So I thought that was okay. And then I went back to school and I got my business degree. And I eventually landed a job in 2012 working for the Business Development Bank of Canada. And that was unbeknownst to me at the time, but a very pivotal part of my story. So I worked for the Business Development Bank of Canada. I got hired on as an account manager and then later a senior account manager, and I worked there for just shy of 10 years. So I worked directly with Canadian small and medium-sized business owners, entrepreneurs, and helped them with financing and advisory services for their business. So this was really my first exposure to entrepreneurship, and I realized that I loved them, that they were the most interesting people I'd ever met in my entire life. And as much as I did not see myself at the time as an entrepreneur, but I had always seen myself as someone who was very interested in personal and professional development. So I was always like, I saw myself as a lifelong learner, and I was like always seeking out opportunities to learn and grow, and just never in a capacity of being my own business owner. So I think that that's where did see a little bit of myself in them, because I find that entrepreneurs are very growth minded, of course. So that alignment was there. And anyways, I thought that I would never leave the bank. I really liked my job because I loved my clients and I loved supporting entrepreneurs and growing their business and hearing their stories. Um, in 2019, the bank also appointed me the ambassador for women entrepreneurs for Eastern and Northern Ontario. And the timing was just very serendipitous for that because I was just back from my second maternity leave with my daughter, and I was starting to get pretty curious as to why I was only doing business with men at the bank and only men were borrowing to grow their businesses. I had very few women that I worked with at any given time. So when the bank asked me if I wanted to take on this additional role, I gladly said yes because I really wanted to understand better why there was this discrepancy in who was building these million-dollar plus businesses and borrowing like bigger amounts of money to grow. So I went on a mission to talk to as many women entrepreneurs as I could get my hands on. And the one question that I asked all of them was, what is the biggest challenge that you face in growing your business? And to my surprise, the answer from every single one of them was the exact same, and it was something along the lines of making the right connections. So that I wanted to do something to help in that area, but it was a bit of a departure from my job as a lender. And what I ended up doing was I reached out to everybody and I said, if I start a group, would you come? And in October of 2019, I had 10 women around a table and I had set an agenda, and was just this very casual thing, but I said, let's meet once a month and we're going to talk about every single aspect of building and growing a business and support one another and deepen our relationships with other women who are at a similar stage and phase of business as you at the table. And again, unbeknownst to me, that was the start of something that I could not have even dreamed of what it could be, but people started to reach out. So I launched another group in February of 2020. And then a few months after that, another group and another group and another group. And obviously, we know what happened in 2020. So everything went virtual. People kept showing up. It was just this wild thing that was happening. But again, I was obsessed with doing it because I was seeing the impact it was having. And eventually, in August of 2021, the bank came to me and said I had to choose between continuing to grow the Elleiance Network or continuing on with the bank. And that was my push into entrepreneurship. I ended up leaving the bank to grow the Elleiance Network full time and with no real plan. I don't know that I would recommend what I had built a community, but up until this point, the Elleiance Network was free and I had two little kids at home. So that was probably one of the scariest things that I have ever done. And that caused me to, well, I had to monetize the Elleiance Network right away. So it's now a membership-based business mastermind community for Canadian women entrepreneurs. I grew it outside of my city, which is Thunder Bay, Ontario. So we now have members from um, BC to PEI currently. A shout out to anyone living in Newfoundland. I'm coming for you. But yeah, we're almost coast to coast in Canada and growing. So that's really exciting. But I also I got my real estate license and I'm licensed in Ontario and I have a bit of a niche practice where I focus on business acquisition and succession planning. And in and around that, I wanted to get my own hands-on experience in doing that. So I acquired a business myself with a business partner and we bought a local bakery here and are looking to possibly acquire more businesses as the years go on. And I took a 12-month business coaching certification program. So I'm a certified business coach. And as you mentioned, under the umbrella of the Elleiance Network, I created the Capital L Business Impact Award, which this year is a $50,000 funding program for Canadian women entrepreneurs.
Amazing. What a journey. I love that you lay it all out like that because it really does show how one thing kind of led to the other. And now here you are. And when you mentioned that you see entrepreneurs as having a growth mindset, and I 100% totally agree with that. And one of my favorite sayings is that entrepreneurship is one of the best forms of personal development because you're growing as a person. And when you're looking at your bottom line and you know that it's a reflection of how you're showing up too. And so you're kind of like working on yourself and your business at the same time. And it's just so powerful. And I want to get into, I mean, now that you're saying that the Elleiance Network is pretty much Canada wide, and I don't know if it was that last year when we were talking. So I'd love to get into the growth that you have seen in this first year since launching Capital L Fund. And you've been on so many other podcasts and really getting the message out there. But first, I'd like to touch on what that really felt like and maybe some of the fears that you had to go through, like when you were saying you were essentially given that ultimatum by the Business Bank of Canada, like, stay here or your alliance has to shut it down, and then you took the decision. It was scary. What do you think it was that just like allowed you to take that leap?
I There was a few factors at play for sure. It wasn't just one thing. Like a lot of factors actually when I look back, like one of those perfect storm type of things that it couldn't have happened in any other way. Um, I mentioned I have never identified as an entrepreneur as much as I loved supporting them, but and I took that role so seriously. But I wasn't them. I did not, like, I thought they were a little bit crazy. Like, I had clients that hadn't pulled a wage out of their business for 5, 6, 7 years. Like, I didn't know how these people survived, some of them, and just what they put on the line to build something that had never existed before that they just felt so passionate about. I understand it all so deeply now, but at the time, I admired it, but I also didn't like it wasn't for me, or at least I told myself that. But what ended up like the a few key factors, I guess, is my role at the BDC did I spent day in and day out inside these businesses working very closely with entrepreneurs. So was building a network and I was learning lots about business and educating myself on the job, not with an intention to leave, just with an intention to get better at my job and to understand entrepreneurship better so that I could be a better support person. But building that knowledge bank and base, I think did help to give me some confidence when the time came to make a decision. Um, Building the Elleiance Network, and like I said, I absolutely loved it. So, like serving these women and watching the impact that was coming out of every single mastermind meeting was like had my cup overflowing for how like joyful and purposeful and like something that I had just created out of thin air in an effort to help was really working. And so that was my first taste. It was free, but it was growing. And I had these women who believed in me as much as I believed in them, and that supported me as hard as I supported them. And I had never had that before. So that was a big factor. I remember talking to many of my alliance members when I was in this like, phase, let's say 2 weeks of a decision making space. And all of them were so supportive and built me up and said they would continue to support me and told me that I was brave enough and smart enough and good enough to continue to do this. And like I can't tell, I truly don't think I would have been able to do it without those cheerleaders telling me that they believed in me, because as much as I was working on building my belief in myself, I feel like I still really needed other people who saw it in me in times when I was had a little bit of doubt still. So that was another important factor. I had been with the bank at this point for 10 years, and we were at the tail end of COVID. So much had changed in my job, and a lot of it not in a way that was lighting me up in the same way. And I think when I look back on that, it wasn't necessarily like all an organizational thing. Me as a person, I was growing and changing and like seeking out this path of development and growth so intentionally that I had just outgrown the opportunities that were available for me at a corporate level. So, all of these factors mixed in together, honestly, it was as much as it was scary, I also couldn't have done anything else. Do you know what I mean? Like, when it's just like every cell in my body is like, Erin, if you don't do this, you are going to forever wonder. if you could have done it. And I also knew I'd been in banking. I was in personal banking for 5 years, then business banking for 10 years. So I had this skill set that was, I knew I was employable, but as you know, as an entrepreneur, it doesn't take long inside the world of entrepreneurship until you're like, uh-oh, I'm actually not employable anymore because I can't imagine going back to a job. So but I also knew that like worst comes to worst, if I'm like homeless in the ditch, I can go and get it. Like somebody probably, some bank will probably take me on. Um, so I had this like plan B way back there, but I also knew that like it was time to go all in and see what it could be. And it has been there's definitely been points of stress. However, it's one of those things, and I've heard it from so many entrepreneurs over the years. It's like, I can't do anything else. Like, there's just no options. I have to figure it out. And every day, I literally wake up like so excited to see what the day is going to bring and to work on what I'm building and to serve who I'm serving and to be open to all of the opportunities that are going to show up in often what feels like magical ways to continue to grow and develop and grow and develop and like where this path is going to take me and all the stakeholders here is just I don't know. It's like a career path like no other, where it's not necessarily easy, but man, it is so fulfilling and exciting, and it just brings like such a next level of purpose to my life that I didn't know was available to me until I took the leap.
Mhm. Yeah, you touch on something that hits home really for me in my personal story is like in having that regret. If I don't do this, I know I'm going to live with the regret of not taking the chance. And I think like getting into that perspective and starting to look at it in that way, like it makes it so much easier to be able to move forward. But like you were saying, you had the network, you had the knowledge, network and people who believe in you even before you believe in yourself, and especially having the great supportive network. I mean, they say we're like the five people that we hang around with most, and so if we're around people who don't really believe in us, who are kind of like, no, keep the secure job, right, that's not an environment to allow us to be able to move forward and take that leap. Did you ever? I mean, I love that you have the plan B. And I feel like many of us as entrepreneurs, we do have that plan B that we never want to get to, but it's in the back of our mind. We're like, okay, if like really worse comes to shove, like we could just go back and do something, right? But was there ever a time when you were starting the Elleiance Network that you were like, oh, maybe I went too soon, or you kind of regretted your decision, maybe I should have stayed at the bank? And I'm saying this because I feel like a lot of newer entrepreneurs find themselves there of like regretting not seeing the results in their business right away, and then they're second guessing themselves like, oh, should I keep going, and or should I have stayed? And I love just to be able to share examples, be like, you're not alone in feeling this, no one's immune to this feeling, and you can keep going, and you can really create the business of your dreams.
Yeah. Yeah. Like for me, my story is a little bit unique because I was I was forced to make a choice and in a very short time frame. And at the time, it was a lot of pressure and I felt um I didn't have like I had some negative emotions around it. Like I was like a bit mad that I was forced into this position. However, I also know that for me, I don't know that it could have gone any other way because I was scared and I feel like I would have tried to do both for as long as humanly possible. But then I also know that I would have either stinted my growth by an extreme amount because I was holding down like a professional full-time job. I have two kids at home. It was COVID. Like I was busy as it was, and then I'm trying to build this network. So there would just the capacity was not there. I did not have the space to invest what was required into the Elleiance Network, like what it deserved. But at the time, I'm looking for a safety net, right? So I'm like, well, just let me do both. Let me do both. Like we can figure this out. And they were like, no, that's not an option. So I had no option. So I never thought to myself, like maybe I could have stayed for longer because that wasn't really an option. But what I will say is I have thought so many times, maybe I'm just not the right person to do this. Maybe this isn't for me. It's for other people, but it's not for me. Like I'm just not designed to build what I like can see in my mind, but maybe I just don't have what it takes. Like I just don't, maybe. And I am now equipped in like enough mindset tools and trainings, like I've invested so much because it's not that you can't have those thoughts. It's just you need to know how to shift them back into a state of abundance and, flow and growth and like all of the things quicker. You can't sit there for that long because you're sabotaging yourself with those types of thoughts. And like, of course, why not me? Of course, now I more buy into them. It's so lovely to buy into the mindset, and I do like there's just so many factors at play, but what I do believe when I'm in my like best mindset is that this vision and dream wouldn't be on my heart and in my mind if it wasn't meant for me in some way. And like, of course, why not me? Why not you? You have a dream, why not? Of course. But there are moments when it's hard and there's compounding things that feel like they're not going your way and cash flow is really tight and bills are due and you feel like, what are you going to do? Like I was just, every month I host an event inside the Elleiance Network called the Podcast Club, where I choose a podcast episode in my like repertoire of podcasts that I listen to because I love podcasts. So this one, the podcast club is meeting this week on Thursday. So I'm listening to this episode again so that I can, pull out the nuggets and we can go deep on it. And the show is the Diary of a CEO show, and he has three guests on. And so it's Alex Harmozy, Cody Sanchez, and Daniel. I always forget his last name. Some gentleman named Daniel with an English accent. But anyways, these three business experts, and Harmozy says that 80% of businesses fail because they run out of cash, and 20% just quit too soon because it feels hard. So, and that was just, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like a lot of people don't want to quit, but you literally run out of money. And what are you gonna do? Like you can't survive. So you have no choice. And I feel like there's such this balance. And actually, I also just heard that 60% of service-based businesses fail versus 50% of product-based businesses because it's so hard to price yourself as a service-based business. There's not this formula that like my material costs this much and then I mark it up by 30, 40, 50, 60%, and my marketing this that like, it's the market is willing to pay this. Like it's so much more difficult. So, um, yeah, anyways, it's not that it hasn't been, I haven't considered it, but you keep holding on and figuring things out. And like I have been so proud of myself for understanding like how my brain works when it's put in difficult situations, like you don't feel that pressure when you have a job to nearly the same degree to when you're trying to figure out a business model and how to make your dreams come to life. Like it's pretty wild, the creativity and the capacity of what you can actually create when you're forced to do so. And it does make you pretty proud of yourself?
Yeah, I feel like when you do enter in entrepreneurship with that knowledge too, that like it's not just this business that you're growing, you're also growing yourself. So embracing it as an experience on you too and exploring and yeah, realizing, okay, how am I under pressure? Like it's almost like as if you have like this lens of curiosity of yourself and then kind of awe at just what you're capable of when you really need to make things happen. I love that you gave that stat that 60% of service-based businesses fail because they can't get the pricing right. Because I do feel, I mean, and doing both, I had a product based business and now in the online coaching space, and it is harder. And even, for example, my product based business, I looked at the direct competitors. What are they charging? Okay, that's kind of the range that I can go and put my prices for my product as well. But being in the online space, I mean, there's such a wide range of pricing too. So how do you even compare? You really have to go within and look at everything that you've uniquely experienced, the time that you put in the learning, like all of it to really figure out like what that pricing is. So it is really difficult. You also mentioned 80% of businesses fail because they don't have any more cash flow. And this is the second year that you are doing the Capital L Impact Award. So at what point when you were just running the Elleiance Network, did you realize that, I'm going to put together an award because this is really needed in this space?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I shared that I started the Elleiance Network initially because I was hearing women say their biggest challenge in growing their business was making the right connections. And then in 2021, I ended up leaving the bank, going all in on helping to build these connections. And I still 100% believe that making the right connections in business is the number one thing that you should be working on like every day, figuring out like how to make the right connections for your business. Like it's just people. The fact that I get to sit here with you today is because somebody introduced us, a year and a half ago, and we've built a relationship, and now I get to talk about my story to your audience. And it's just it's people that help build your business, and you need that. But my unique background of skills lies in banking. That's where I've spent the majority of my professional career. And I feel like it's just where I can add so much value because I understand it so deeply. And a big part of the reason why I got started here as well is because I was getting really curious as to why I was only dealing with men. So there is this big gap in the financing sector between who is getting funded and how. And as much as making the right connections, I think is the number one piece of capital, social capital, I call it, that you need to be raising every day and every week as an entrepreneur. I don't think I just felt like it was irresponsible for me, especially based off of this unique set of knowledge and skills and experience that I had in the funding and financing world for so long, to not talk about that. Because what I was seeing is I could help you make the right connections. You could join the Elleiance Network and together we could get really good at that. But then what's going to happen eventually is you're going to need to raise financial capital to keep going. So it's social capital is something that you should be focusing on raising every day, every week, every month. Financial capital is very different. You don't need to focus on raising financial capital every day. Um, that's not necessary. But there are key points in your business's growth cycle where you do need to focus on financial capital. Now, if you're doing really good at raising social capital, then hopefully in your network, you have people that is their zone of genius. So you have people like me, for example, where I have helped hundreds and hundreds of Canadian business owners both raise grant money and raise bank money. And since leaving the bank, I've really focused on building my knowledge base around raising private capital. So that's how I was able to buy a business in 2022. And I've since helped people access money through angels or VCs or, what that private money world looks like. And I've been an angel investor myself. So through these three buckets of capital, I look at them. So grants, banks, private. Um, that is probably going to be required at certain inflection points of your growth cycle. And I feel like I understand that it's like this unique set of knowledge that I have that I could bring to the table where I can add value. So my big goal is that I want one day to launch my own venture capital fund where I invest in like meaningful amounts of capital in woman-owned businesses. But while I'm on my journey to bringing that goal to life, I thought, what can I do in the meantime? And that is how the Capital L Business Impact Award was born. Um, One of my other main values in business is collaboration. So I believe that really the top way of building social capital is by being open to collaboration. And when you meet somebody, to just show up so generously that there's no option that at some point, like the karma that's going to come back to you is just going to be 10x or 100x of what you put out there in the first place. And collaboration is just such a cool way to do that in business. So, um, so yeah, this award it fell into place and it is such a fun project to work on. The fact that I get to build something that is going to give $50,000 of cash and critical business services to Canadian women entrepreneurs is like just the most fulfilling and exciting dream come true for me, to be honest. So it feels super good. And this year, we're doing something a little bit different. So, as you mentioned, the amount went up. In 2024, our first year, we had 9 partners and $20,000 in cash and prizes. This year, we have 29 partners and $50,000 in cash and prizes, but we are specifically also opening up a really important conversation from my perspective in we are specifically funding women who have been left out of the funding landscape in Canada historically. So, whether you have been denied funding in the past or you are building a business in one of the three industries that are the most unfunded industries in Canada, which are social impact, service, and creative industries, which ironically are largely led by women entrepreneurs. That is specifically who we are funding. And as much as I know the impact that the actual prizes can have to the up to 10 winners of this award. What I'm also really excited about is unlocking and sharing this conversation with as many people as I can talk to about it, that the funding frameworks are old. They're outdated. They are meant for businesses that are buying brick and mortar, that are buying tractors, that are buying massive amounts of inventory. And entrepreneurship in this country has shifted so much that there's this big piece that's being left out of all of the funding in this country because we don't look like how businesses looked in 1950, and we haven't been able to change these like dinosaur frameworks. And partially that's because we're not dealing with entrepreneurs. We're dealing with government. We're dealing with big banks and organizations of like this size and complexity. It's so hard to shift how things were built and like how business gets done. But that's where it leaves these like pockets of super cool and interesting opportunity for the entrepreneurs of the world to identify where there's a gap and a challenge and a problem and do it better. So that's what I'm on a mission to do.
I love it. I love what you're doing. And I love that, I had the opportunity to do this full circle moment with you here, having last year and now we're just a couple days away between this next year opening up. And congratulations to all of the growth that you had in the last year and all of the other, partnerships that you have created, everybody involved and everyone who is nominated. And I saw on your website too that you also open it up to nominations. So because I have a lot of audience members that are in the States right now, but if you do know of a woman entrepreneur in Canada, you can also nominate an entrepreneur and they can choose to follow through and apply if they don't already know about it.
100%. Yes. Yeah, that's new this year. Again, this award is 2 years old, so it is a baby toddler and it is getting better every year. I can't wait to see what next year and the year after look like. Um, but I'm excited about the nomination aspect of it. And a reason for that is just because I just feel like as women, it's in our DNA to want to elevate and lift up other women. And how awesome does it feel to be able to, like, for me, to write your name down and say, I think that Jessica West deserves to be in the running for this. And then an email lands in your inbox saying, somebody thought about you. You should consider applying for this because you deserve it. And it's just, again, it's such a generous way to show up for somebody. It doesn't cost you anything, but by me doing that for you or for any other women entrepreneur in this country, well, all of a sudden, I'm in their inbox and they're thinking about me while I'm thinking about them. And who knows, whether you win the award or not, but now we're in conversation and we're potentially building something really amazing together all because I took 5 or 10 minutes out of my day to be like, yeah, I think that you need to know about this because you deserve to win this. And I just love to find those like pockets of opportunity to generously like drop into somebody's world because I know what that's done for me. Like sometimes I'll be like, I'm going to take 15 minutes and go on LinkedIn and comment thoughtfully on three people's posts that I just want to be top of mind for them again because I feel like, they deserve it and maybe there's something cool that we could do together. And I can't tell you just by doing that how many times then a DM has come in being like, Erin, we need to reconnect. We need to talk about this. I have this cool opportunity and I want to share it with you. And like it just never like by showing up for somebody in that way, you just never know what is going to come from that. And that is the excitement of entrepreneurship and the power of social capital.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's making me think of what you were saying right at the beginning when you had a network of people who believed in you more than you may have believed in yourself at that moment. And so receiving that, having someone believe in you so much that they're going to nominate you and then you see that, that's kind of like you can borrow someone's belief and maybe it can even be something that that person may have never even thought about it for themselves, maybe thought, oh, I can't apply for that, like I'll never get chosen. But if someone else believes in me, then oh, maybe like it could really make that big of a
And
difference.
maybe, exactly. And think
Yeah.
about the ripple effect with that. Now that I've nominated you, well, now you see a button to nominate and you're like,
Mhm.
100, I'm paying this forward. I'm sending this to so and so because I think she deserves it. So I'm excited about that. I'm
Mhm.
excited about the ripple effect of just what a simple 1 minute nomination can do to change the lives of like so many women. So yeah, I'm
Mhm.
excited about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the logistics. What are the dates? How long do people have to apply themselves or nominate someone? And where do they go for that?
Yeah, okay. Applications open on September 2nd, and you can find the application and all the information about the award. Um, on the Elleiance website. So it's elleiance.ca. And then to get right to the award, it's /impact dash award dash 2025. But if you just more simply, elleiance.ca, right in the top bar, you'll see 2025 award, and that will take you, that'll give you all the information you need to learn about what we're looking for and to find the application and to nominate, etc. Um, Applications are open until October 28th. And then after that, there's going to be a top 10 selected. And every single woman who lands in the top 10 is going to receive $1,500 in critical business services to help them grow. And then the top three chosen from the top 10 get like the most amazing prize packages. So the first prize package number one has a $25,000 value. The second place prize has a $10,000 value, and the third place prize has a $5,000 value. And these prize packages are all made up of cash and critical business services to help you grow your business.
Amazing. That's awesome. And I'm going to be including all of those links in the show notes of this episode too. So you can click on that and get to the page right away. And once they're also on the elleiance.ca, that's where they can learn about the mastermind group that you now have in, Canada wide, which has grown significantly since last year as well.
Yeah, so last year at this time, We, so I mentioned I live in Thunder Bay, Ontario. So I was leading in-person masterminding in my city, and then I was leading two virtual mastermind groups in order to serve women outside of my city. But since then, which has happened, another really exciting part about the growth of the Elleiance Network is that we are partnering with women in every city across the country to launch in-person masterminding in every city across Canada. So this started in November of 2024, where we launched an in-person mastermind group in Medicine Hat, Alberta. And then we launched in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, Cochrane, Alberta, and North Bay, Ontario. And in September and October coming up, we are also launching in Langley, BC, Lethbridge, Alberta, Calgary, Alberta, Huntsville, Ontario, Ottawa, Ontario, um, PEI, Moncton. I think that's it. And I apologize if I missed somebody. But those are the newest cities launching this fall. And I have a very lofty goal that I want there to be an alliance mastermind group in 5,000 cities across Canada. So this will be 11, and I can't wait to see how this is going to grow.
I can't wait to see it either. It's so incredible. And I love everything that you're doing. I think it's so necessary. And it's amazing and so exciting to be able to see your growth with it all since launching. So thank you so much for coming back on the show today and sharing all of this with us. And again, I'm going to be including all of the links in the show notes so you can go and apply for the business fund and also check out the mastermind to join. Erin, did you have any last words that you wanted to share with the audience today?
I would say my last words are, especially when it comes to the award, is you kind of said it, just apply. It is absolutely free to apply. We have designed the application very intentionally to be easy and not overwhelming. Um, it is just a written component until you get to the top 10. So I know from last year that and from just supporting so many women apply for grants, that sometimes a video component can be a stressful component for some. But to get started, just don't count yourself out before you've even put your foot forward. I encourage you that if you are a woman running a business, especially in service, social impact, or creative industry, this fund was specifically designed to support your business's growth, and your application and your business matters. And you just never know where this award could take you. There's so much more than just cash involved in this. Um, like the marketing opportunities, the partnerships, the collaboration, the opportunities that have come just because you took 5 or 10 minutes out of your day and applied can truly change your life. So I encourage you to apply, and I encourage you to nominate as many women as you can, because you never know who else needs the push to see themselves reflected in this award and to feel worthy enough to win this award. So, yes, please apply.
Yes, amazing. Thank you for sharing everything that you shared today. Lastly, where can people find you personally if they wanted to connect?
Yeah, so I am mainly on two platforms. Personally, on LinkedIn at Erin Sisko, and the Elleiance Network on Instagram, which is Elle dot Iance, IANCE, is the best two places to find us.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Erin. It's so great to have you back on the show today and share everything that's happened in the last year and beyond that. So thanks for being on.
I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And I'll see you next time.